This is a rare book. It's a facsimile of the Leningrad Codex. The Leningrad Codex, it's really heavy, so I'm going to be opening it here on a pillow. The Leningrad Codex is 1,000 years old, and it has about 1,000 pages. And this is probably the second most important Hebrew Bible that has ever been written, meaning in our possessions, that's still around today. And what this is, it's a Masoretic Bible, which means it has a lot of notes in the sides and the margins, a lot of extra notes on the top and the side. And the first 970 pages or so are all the biblical text. And this is the most important biblical text because it's very accurate and it's also very complete. The only manuscript more important than this is called the Aleppo Codex. And what I'd like to show you is the Bible that scholars use today when studying the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh. It's actually based on what's found in this manuscript. So this is clearly a very important text. It is housed in the National Library of Russia in St. Petersburg, which used to be Leningrad, so it's known as the Leningrad Codex. But if we skip to the back, at the very back, there are some beautiful carpet pages. They're called carpet pages because they kind of look like carpets, and they come from an Islamic area. The scribe who made these was in Cairo. These are the only decorations in this entire giant Bible, and they are meant to bring beauty to the entire project. And what these are beautiful geometric shapes, and here you can see what the Star of David. This actually, at this time, 1,000 years ago, was not necessarily a Jewish symbol. It was just a symbol in its own right. But these are just geometric designs, and they're beautiful, and you can see what makes them very interesting is there's writing, micrography, small writing to make the geometric designs. So I've seen these images hundreds of times in my life. There are even books that have their cover made of these. These are just very well-known, beautiful pages, but I've probably spent about 0 seconds of my life trying to figure out what these things are. Like, what is this? What is this? Or, for example, let's look at that first one we saw. That circle. Let's go back to that circle. Here, you see this beautiful circle? It's made of writing. Can you zoom in here? It's made of writing. So, like, how would you read this? Where would you start? Do you start a circle in the middle? Do you start on the circumference? What do you do? You make a radius, a diameter? What are you going to do to try and understand this? And what is this? So these pages, even though everybody has seen them and loved them for at least a century since the Leningrad Codex became famous, the truth is that for about 1,000 years, no one has ever really read them. And that is until in 2019, a dissertation at a small college in Jerusalem called the University of the Holy Land. Susan Lynn Schmidt spent her doctoral dissertation trying to make sense of these. And what she did is she tells you first what the text is and how the text should be ordered. And then once you're able to figure out what the text is, then you can unlock the secrets of the whole image. And you can read that what order should this be read in, which comes first, which comes second. Like, look, this is a Rubik's Cube for all intents and purposes. Where do you start? Where is the first place to start on this Rubik's Cube? Well, Hebrew starts from right to left, so maybe we should start here. But should we start in the corner, or should we start in the circle, or should we start in the square? It's just, this is basically a giant puzzle. And in this doctoral dissertation, not only has she unlocked a text that has been well known, but nobody paid attention to it, she even found some secrets. Like the scribe would leave little secrets in the text itself, and we'll take a look at those now. So let's get started. Let's take a look, unlocking the secrets of the 1,000-year-old Hebrew Bible, the Leningrad Codex. All right, let's begin with this nice circle, the first of all the carpet pages. So Schmidt tells us that this is really, you need to think of this like a dance, a choreography, that we're going to be moving around the circle, or we're going to be moving the circle around so that we can read the text correctly. And this particular page has 3 steps in the dance. And the first step, if you ask yourself, well, where would you start? I don't really know, but Schmidt says we're going to start right here, which is the upper right-hand corner. Maybe not on your phone, but it's the upper right-hand corner. And if you could zoom in on that word, it's mivorach. There are hundreds of thousands of words in the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh. So why are we starting with this four-letter word? What is special about the word mivorach? So this circle is basically a list of information. And the people who made these books had lots of lists, like you can just see here. Long lists of information about obscure topics, very rare information about Hebrew. So there's all these long lists. So what the scribe is going to do is give you a list in this circle, and it's all about one root, one Hebrew root to bless, barach. And this word right here, remember it, it's mivorach, which means the blessed one or blessed be. So why is this one word so important? Well, why don't you zoom out a little bit? Let me just show you a few other pages in the carpet pages. Let me show you this one in particular. Here we go. And so what we see here is that this is a dedication. It says le to mivorach, and that's a name. Mivorach ben Yosef, son of Joseph, HaKohen, the priest. So the person who paid for this book, which is 1,000 pages long and probably took a scribe 5 years or so to complete, this incredibly expensive enterprise was all funded by one person named Mivorach. His name was Mivorach, which literally means blessed be. And now that you know that, we can now unlock the first sequence in our dance. It says mivorach. This Hebrew word mivorach appears gimel 3 times, meaning this guy's name actually appears in the Bible. And that's actually true. If you search in the Bible, and I'll show it on the screen for you, this word appears 3 times. And so the first sequence, number 1, is to follow all the way around, and that's our circle. That's sequence number 1. And sequence number 1 is essentially a secret code saying that Mivorach is the one who paid for this entire book. There's no other reason to start with this random list. All right, so that's the first step in the dance. What about the second step? Where are we going to go? We have everything in the middle. Hebrew starts on the right, so maybe we'll start over here, or maybe we should start in the middle, or maybe these tiny boxes in between. So Schmidt says that we're going to actually start with 12 diagonals. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to flip and go 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So these 12 diagonals they have about 20 or so verses in them. I think like 23 verses in them. And many of them sing God's praise. Like, for example, the very first one starts Shiru Adonai Shir Chadash. Sing to the Lord a new song, Tilato Miktzei Haaretz. His praise from the edge of the earth. Now, this is from Isaiah 42:10, and someone like me would say, wow, very nice verse. There's a bunch of nice verses, let's move on. But Schmidt knows that these carpet pages are puzzles that need to be solved. And her PhD advisor, Yossi Ofer from Bar-Ilan University, which is where I got my own PhD, he noticed that there's a secret message in the order of these verses, and that if you order them correctly, they secretly spell out the name Shmuel ben Yaakov, Samuel, son of Jacob. Who is Samuel, son of Jacob? He's the scribe who wrote this 1,000-page book. And this secret message confirms the order that Schmidt tells us, because if you don't read these verses in this order, then you do not get the secret message. Now, at this point, I'm shocked. Wow, we just discovered a secret message in the Leningrad codex. But Schmidt goes even farther, and she writes and translates that 12th line of our diagonal series. And she notices that no one had ever spoken about that line in any literature whatsoever, which makes her think, and I agree, that she is the first person to ever get so deep into this carpet page that she got to this 12th line. And it's a dedication in the style of other Masoretic works. And it says the following: HaSofer Yechia, the scribe will live. HaKona Yismach, the buyer will be happy. HaHoga Yilmad, the one who thinks will learn. HaKora Yechacham, the reader will become wise. Hamaskil Yavin. The educated will understand. And that's Schmidt's translation. So here we have a 1,000-year-old dedication to the scribe, to the patron, and it's really just fascinating to see this discovered in the year 2019. Now the third part of this choreography is going to be everything that's left in between. I think there was something like 37 different squares that were created in this area. And if you zoom in really closely, you can see that in the squares are little, to me they look like hearts. I don't know if they would have interpreted them as hearts, but like hearts. And then a little thing in the middle, and around that is little tiny micrography. The tiniest font you can probably get while still being writing. It's so tiny. And so each box has its own little information. You can only fit just a couple words in these little squares. So what are these? This is one of those lists. You know, the list, these scribes had long lists to help you write the Bible. They wanted you to know a lot of information about each and every word that was unusual, each and every unusual word. And so what Schmidt says is this has an order. And she finds the order by looking in other manuscripts that have the same list. So she went to other manuscripts that looked like this, just like a list. She figured out the order, and then she was able to figure out that this is going to go line 1 down, so that's box 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then next to it, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So we've just been going down, 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 down. And then we come back to the right side. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. And then for some unknown reason, instead of going from top to bottom, the end goes 35, 36, 37. So it kind of ends with like a nice tail. And that's it. That is the sequence. This page is now understood by people like me and hopefully by you. We start with the circle about our patron, we get to the lines about our scribe, and then finally we end with a Masoretic list, because this is a Masoretic Bible. If you know how to read this, you know about Masoretics. And I'm not suggesting that everyone on YouTube learn about Masoretics. It's complicated. But if you know this, that's what it is. This is a Masoretic Bible. Okay, let's move on to the second one, and this is the last one we'll do. Like I said, there's 16, but once you get through 1 and 2, you kind of realize that these are all puzzles. Each one has its own solution. Okay, so this one over here, the first step in our dance is the easiest one. It's in this little hexagon created by the six-sided star. Again, at this time, this six-sided star did not mean Judaism. It was just a shape. But later on, this became the Star of David or the Shield of David. Okay, so we have Ani Shmuel ben Yaakov, I Samuel, son of Jacob, Katavti v'nakati v'masarti, I wrote, I pointed, and I macerated, Zeh mitzchaf, that's an Arabic word for a codex, this codex, Lichvod, Rabbana Mivorach HaKohen ben Yosef, in honor of the master Mivorach, who we saw before. If you remember, we saw Mivorach. That's our patron. We know that guy. Mivorach, the priest, the son of Joseph, Hayadua ben Azdad, who is known as Ben Azdad in Arabic. And then it's kind of difficult at the end. Yivarechu, may he bless him, may God bless him, and perhaps may he live. It kind of cuts off at the end. Okay, so this was the easy part. Step 1 was just like you're reading a normal book. We know where to start right in the middle. But what's next? So the thing about this page, and again, this is arguably the most famous page, and you could even say the most beautiful. It has all the beautiful, surroundings. The thing about this page is that it looks kind of noisy. There's a lot going on, but you can actually separate out three major shapes. First, you have your circle, and then you have a square on its base, square, and then you have a square that's kind of like resting on the point right here, on its point. So what you end up having with those two squares is you get an 8-sided star, the 8 sides of this 8-pointed star, and this star now is inside this circle. But interestingly, if you zoom in, and I'm not sure if you can see this, maybe follow my hand, the writing of the square, which is going this way, flows into the circle. Did you see that? It's flowing into the circle. And then the writing of the circle flows into the other square. So what that means is that these aren't three shapes. These are one connected shape. And I hope to show this on the screen, but what ends up happening when you follow this through, and you start right here, because this is the only part that doesn't get cut off. This is where you start, and everything flows from it. What you end up doing is a spiral. And the way you do this is by having one part of a square, line, and then one part of the circle, arc. So line, arc, that's 1. Line, arc, 2. Line, arc, 3. Line, arc, 4. Line, arc, 5. Line, arc, 6. Line, arc, 7. Line, arc, 8. And that's it. We ended up right where we started, 8. 8-sided star. So it comes out to 8 lines and arcs for this beautiful spiral. If you're into geometry, I mean, I liked geometry in high school. I enjoyed it, but like I like this even more than my teacher, who was teaching it. I wish they would have had this secret little puzzle here. And so, what is all this text? We did the first text, but what's the second text? These texts, they're verses that the scribe chose. And Schmidt doesn't really explain why these verses in particular were chosen. But in honor of the scribe Samuel, son of Jacob, let's read one of them. Tzama lecha nafshi, my soul thirsts for you. Kamah lecha v'sari, my flesh yearns for you, God. Be'eretz tziyah v'ayef, in a land dry and tired. Beli mayim, without water. So Samuel ben Jacob is here attributing greatness to God himself and saying, God, I need you like a thirsty person in a desert needs water. For our next movement, we're going to move to the star, which today would be called the Star of David, the 6-pointed star. And this is a Masoretic list. The list is about words that can be spelled 2 different ways. 2 letters are different. And Schmidt found this list in other manuscripts, was able to determine the order. Now, the order for this is somewhat complicated. It's not as simple as just having 2 triangles, 6 sides, but I'm going to present it in that way to make it a little bit easier to process. So we start with side 1, side 2, and then side 3. And then we're going to go to the other triangle for side 4, side 5, and side 6. Alright, that's the third sequence in the choreography. Now let's move on to the fourth. All that's left are these tiny little rosettes, these 16 circles around roses, or lilies actually. And what we see over here is this is another list, just like we've had before. And this list is about words that appear just twice in the Bible, where it doesn't appear in this form any more than 2 times. In terms of order, we're going to start at the top and move counterclockwise, 1 rosette or lily at a time, 1 circle at a time, until we get all the way back to where we began. So that's it. These are the 2 carpet pages we looked at. I think that Schmidt has done something very rare in the field of biblical studies, in a dissertation that just makes a huge discovery that no one ever even thought of even closely. She basically opened up this book and said, let's read these pictures. What are these? How do you read them? To me, this was a great pleasure. I love the imagery. There we see our friend Mivorach ben Yosef HaKohen. Mivorach, right? Mivorach, the patron, is all over this because he funded the whole project. So I hope you enjoyed this. This to me unlocked the last 16 pages or so of the 1,000-page Leningrad Codex. I spend much of my day studying these pages, so it was really enjoyable to kind of take a break, enter a different world, and take a look at these pages. Also, a special thank you to Professor David Marcus from the Jewish Theological Seminary for gifting me this phenomenal book of the Leningrad Codex. Without a book like this, I'm not sure if we could have done what we just did in a really fantastic way. Okay, stay tuned for the next video.